Hi, I'm in a car, but more about that later. Are payments chaining up your budgets? They're leaving you no room to invest, enjoy, or simply give friends and family in need? Look, I made this video just for you, so listen up. Today, I'm going over, in this video, 4 Ds of debt. No, I'm not going to do it in the car. So you can break the grip of debt that has on you, and you can create the space to do what you want with money. Most people don't have that, but you will if you watch this video. So you can live with abundance. So let's get into this piece of wisdom and watch it till the end. All right? Now, number one, discern the lie. Pause and pray before any big spend. A big spend varies between individuals. Some people may be making 300 to $1 million a year. Some people listening to this might only be making 10 grand a year. So your version of a big spend is going to be different than others. I would kind of think of it as like, is it more than you make a day? Is the spend bigger than one of your paychecks? So it would take a whole week it would take more than a week to replenish that money. And the reason why is because it breaks past that emotion that says, buy now, buy now, buy now. Everybody wants the shiny new car, but nobody wants the payment. Agreed. And so this pause allows us to see the shiny new car for what it actually is, to see the payment behind it, and then it then gives us emotional room to say, no, I don't need that car, and get a cheaper option. And this can go with anything. You want to buy a bike, you want to buy a house, you got some sort of furniture you want to get, you want to go on a vacation, you know, this gives us room to say, do I really need this? Is this really necessary right now? Or even, is there a cheaper option? Now, number two is define the need. Is this a want, a need, or a calling? And what I mean by calling is, does this fuel my mission? Just a quick example of that. About a month or two ago, I had to go and buy a new computer because my old computer was crap and it broke, and it wasn't working for the videos that I was having to record. Now with this new computer, I have the storage and stuff and all that I need, but honestly, at the moment, I didn't technically have the money for it. It was an emergency kind of situation. But if I didn't get the computer, I didn't have anything to do. Like I had to get better software to work on my business, stuff like that. So that's really what I mean by calling. Beyond that, wants and needs. A need is something necessary for survival. Dave Ramsey's budgeting app called Every Dollar, I believe, or even when they talk about budgeting, they talk about the 4 walls. But they're talking about like food, shelter, clothing, travel slash communication. Because we live in a society where we all have to wear clothes, we all need a way to get around, and we are all probably need a phone bill. Some of those things wouldn't have been needs 100 years ago, or even 20, 30 years ago. They are needs now. So those are things that you need to survive. That is a need. I need this. Most people get confused and they say, I need this when they're looking at a brand new bike, a investment into something, some cool new glasses. Not needs. Not needs. Those are wants. Wants is tied to our emotions. Well, needs can be tied to our emotions too, but wants especially are tied to our emotions that kind of, I want to say, fuel our passions. What I mean is wants wants are stuff that you don't need but really want. I think of sweets, I think of candy, I think of extra nice clothes. Like, I don't need this shirt, but this is a nice shirt. I think of vacations. I don't need to go on vacation, but I really want to go on vacation. I don't need to eat out with my friends, but I really want to. It's separating those as needs and wants so it makes our life more clear. It's easier to handle financially. That's really important. Define the need, or the need will define you, and then your paycheck is going to belong to everyone but you. Now, three is design a margin plan. Build buffer to avoid emergency debt. I love this one. Probably one of my favorite. Build a buffer, because a buffer, really an emergency fund. An emergency fund is a sum of money usually left in the savings account of your bank that is, say, 3 to 6 months of expenses, ideally, that allows you to pull off of when you have an emergency. Your car broke down. If you have this emergency fund, you don't need to go get a new car on a loan. You have the cash in the bank to go get it. That way, you are not stressing about how am I going to afford the brand new car, whatever it be. I hope it's not brand new. You can't afford brand new. You can't afford brand new. Brand new cars are extremely expensive. You probably can't afford brand new. Having this emergency fund allows us to avoid the emotional stress and pressure that says, can I afford this? Because now you have to go get a new car, presumably on debt, if you don't have an emergency fund. It also allows us to avoid the extra cost of debt, which is interest. I remember when me and my wife first started dating, well, actually, it was around the time we were planning to get married. She had this car, and it was like $7,000, $8,000 in principal. It wasn't that big of a deal, but her interest rate was 29%. And that is huge. And so I did the math. The interest rate that she was going to pay on that car, if she paid it payment by payment, was going to be an extra $2,200. $2,200. I remember that was like an extra 6 months of car payments. And that simply could have been avoided. Most of it wasn't avoided because we decided to pay it off early, but that could have been avoided entirely if she just had the cash in the bank. If you just had the cash in the bank, you wouldn't have to make those extra payments. Now, for the last D of avoid debt, honestly, this one's the best, is declare your limits. Set personal boundaries and stick with them. I got this idea from Dr. Henry Cloud. He is the author of a book called Boundaries. Well, it's Henry Cloud and Tom something Townsend. I don't remember his name. They co-wrote the book. Anyways, awesome author, awesome book. Go check it out. Boundaries. Boundaries is kind of the rules by which you live your life. Um, Basically, it says when someone steps over your boundaries, that's a no-no, and you can either move that person further away so they can't step over those boundaries, or you can shorten your boundaries. Most people go through life, they don't have clear boundaries on who they are or what they want to be. I have a client who had this real issue, and he was just stressed all the time because he felt like he couldn't say no to people. He felt like he couldn't say no when lending out money. So he was giving other people debt that he couldn't afford, and he was going further into debt because he didn't know how to say no. He didn't know how to set these boundaries. And so I worked with him and we figured out those boundaries, and he has that problem solved now. Um, these boundaries are important. Like, this is the biggest thing. Basically, I'm saying, related to debt, how far are you willing to go? Like, what's a total dollar amount that you would want to have in debt? I feel weird saying that word. Nobody wants to have debt. If you needed to have debt, what is the total amount? 10,000, 15,000. And then if it goes beyond that limit, it's hey, we gotta check our boundaries. We gotta cut this back down. That at the very least allows debt to be more manageable. If you want my personal opinion, your debt boundary should be at zero because I truly believe you can live without debt. And if you have to take it on, you can eliminate it as fast as you can and get back down to zero. Those are the 4 Ds of debt: discern, the lie, define the need, design a margin plan, and declare your limits. Now, you've heard a lot. You've heard the 4 Ds. You've heard everything that I've talked about at this point. I want to say freedom is possible. You do not have to live in fear, shame, or delay. You don't have to delay that freedom. You don't have to be ashamed of the debt that you're in. And you don't have to live in fear that this is where you're going to be stuck for the rest of your life. It is not. I've done it. Other people have gone through it. You can go through it too. God provides. You're not alone. He gives wisdom, community, and provision.
that will lead you out of this debt and lead you to a life of financial freedom and purpose. And above all of this, I want to say God doesn't just provide, but God wants your story. Your story matters. Every step towards freedom is a testimony that can be shared with others. If I was to share my story real quick, I wanted to be an electrician. I basically broke my back. I had 2 herniated discs in my lower back. Found financial coaching, saved up a lot of money so I could leave my job, and now I run my own business as an entrepreneur and a financial coach now that I have some financial freedom. And it's only going to go up from here. So that is my story. Your story is just as powerful. You just have to build it up.
In the beginning, I said I'm in a car. Now I'm going to tell you why. It's because I'm going to a friend's. Now, that's all you get. Anyways, what did you think about the video? Did you like the 4Ds? Which one was your favorite? Comment below. I'd love to hear it. Also, I want to say, because I said your story matters, your story really does matter. As a matter of fact, I would love to hear it in the comment section below, and I always go back and respond. I love to see your comments, so please share that. Who are you? Where are you from? What is your story? Please share. If you want to get closer to freedom, financial freedom that I was talking about, then I have a bunch of links on the description page of my YouTube channel. I have a community that you can join, and it's free right now. There's a bunch of good resources in there. You just have to go check it out. I have a free newsletter that you can take, and I give weekly tips, money wisdom, and scriptures from God. That also comes with a bonus, so you just have to go and subscribe to check it out. Oh, 3, go check out my podcast, the Freedom Finders podcast. Lastly, if my client's story really resonated with you and you're like, hey, I need that, or I'd love that, I'd love to get that kind of coaching, you can go into the description of my YouTube page and there should be a link that says something like, talk to me, let's schedule for coaching. I forget exactly what it's called. I'll just put it up as a text here. So subscribe for more wisdom from a coach who actually cares. I'm so glad you watched, and I'll see you again in the next video.